Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Just Roll It Already. I am your host, Daryl.
I'm your other host, Jeremiah.
Super special guest, Michael.
And you're better than super special guest, John.
Well, today we are doing shop...
Oh, no. Gamer's Hangout, sir.
Yeah, sorry, I almost messed up there.
Yes.
Okay, and today, Mike, you will be presenting our topic.
Our topic for today is going to be starting up games.
Okay, please emphasize.
Now, starting up games such as, finding out what kind of a campaign setting you want to run with your games.
What system?
What system? What game?
What level?
Oh, what level? That's
Who's going to play?
What restrictions?
Oh.
Who's not going to play?
Oh, there's a lot of people I could name for that one.
Daryl.
I would actually like to start off by mentioning the leveling system. First off, what is a good level to start a campaign with?
Well,
Or depending on the system itself.
We'll just say level of type of play, because if you're going to go epic style or medium, or people are veterans, people are novices.
Or you have to buy your flint and steel and your bedroll, and you have to camp in the woods level.
Well, if you're...
You're facing down evil monsters that are unkillable.
Yeah.
You know that your storyteller in White Wolf hasn't been around long if the first words that come out of his mouth is, let's do a Methuselah campaign.
Oh, yes. That's going to last long.
Or
Yeah.
everyone
The
roll
ceiling here is going to
mages.
collapse.
Oh, yes. If you're running, say, it's a good go-to D&D. Let's say, keep it simple, basic.
The old bread and butter.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to say D&D is our go-to how to start a game kind of thing to look at.
Simple.
It's some good examples.
New players, you want to start level 1, cut their teeth on level... Don't alright, you're going to start a level 20 character, this person who's never played before, go through the rules.
No clue about,
stats,
any sort of
skills,
prestige class.
or prestige.
It takes
nothing.
forever to make a high-level character
Yeah,
to begin
It
with.
does.
I mean, for the new players, that's a really good time for experienced players to hop in with them and help them to start understanding even the most basics of systems when it comes to character creation.
At the lower levels, you mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Be their
even,
Sherpas up the RPG mountain.
well, even if they're experienced players, a low-level campaign building from 1 to 20 and beyond, that's a lot of fun, and it takes a lot of time.
It does.
And when you're done with that, you've grown so attached to these characters, you think, oh, that was amazing, and you save that in your brain forever. But we're going to tell you how to get from 1 to 20, or the best way you can do it. And the first part I could throw out is possibly making a group dynamic style template thing. Because if your party is not cohesive with each other, for example, you have the crazy, insane psycho killer, and then the holy paladin, you got some major problems going on right there.
You mean if your party can't get along?
Yeah, that's going to be a
Yes.
PTK.
So you
They're
got to
gonna
make
have
sure.
clashing alignments.
So you're going to want to make sure your party can get along and they have something that will drive them together.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the first thing I do, is find a reason for people to be together.
Yeah, and to emphasize that more, to be together, for all you budding DMs out there, start the party together. I mean, sure, it works great story when you have people off in faraway lands and they meet each other. Happenstance, I've had campaigns that ended because some dude was over in, Chinatown, and then you had some dude over in, Germanburg, and, they're like, oh, we want to do this, we want to do that, and they never crossed paths. Therefore, the party never formed. Therefore, they never existed. Marty, the time machine failed. You weren't born. That's how it ended. And it's wow, I probably should have just did a cliche and started you in a tavern. That's...
I mean, you can have the distance between the characters through the backstories, but still have them meet in that tavern or have them meet in that inn.
A lot of players, though, will have impromptu backgrounds, so it's hard to prepare for having separated characters.
Holy Paladin Samuel shows up on wagon. Oh, look, there he is.
Or in your World of Darkness campaigns, you step off a bus, you join the party.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it never hurts to be cliche.
Yeah.
Cliche is funny sometimes.
You start in a bar and you're all mercenaries?
Yeah,
I'll start the bar and you're in you're a mercenary.
In all my D&D campaigns I run, I like to start a nice cliche tavern start.
And when you add a character, you literally have them fall off a turnip wagon.
Yeah.
It's exceedingly time-saving.
Yeah,
It is.
literally fall off the turnip wagon keeps going, they're stuck in the woods, they're stuck with the party.
If you let your teeth in your head, it will save you a lot of pain and agony from pulling your teeth out trying to get these people to... Because I think a lot of players will unabashedly try to not connect just to anger the DM, just to mess with the DM.
Oh, you mean like what I'm doing in your game?
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm not working against the party, I'm just working against your world, your society that you have built.
Gotta break down the man.
For those who don't know, he's created a rather complex political system, and I decided to have all my adventurers. What we're going to do is the way we're sticking
We're
together.
off the grid.
We're going to go off the grid, and we're becoming an adventuring company. What better way to introduce new characters in case one of the characters dies than having an
That is-
adventure creating company?
I would
Bottoms-
take
yep.
I would take that and like even without you telling me, I would use your company as a way to introduce dead players or new players.
So literally, our beginning level 2 character is going to be playing lumberjacks.
Yeah.
Cutting
a
down,
great profession.
Make a cabin.
Okay.
Will they be required to wear plaid?
Yes.
But Daryl, you had something to add, right?
Completely spaced it now.
Oh,
Back a little bit before the the adventure get together with the levels game again. I mean, if you have the new players, it's best. I would say it's best to go with the level 1 and start from there.
Or
That
maybe
way
even
they
a
can
couple
get the
levels.
experience from the start.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, like, when you have a brand new player coming into a campaign, like, even though they start at level 1, and, you always start all your characters at level 1, you're going to want to keep them with the party if they have to come in from the game. So if your party's
Yeah.
at level 5, you're going to have them come in as a 5. So sometimes it's not possible to have them, if they're a new player come in as level 1, you're going to have to work with them, depending on the campaign.
Well, right now we're getting off topic here because we're talking about setup games, already established games. We're talking about establishing a game already.
yeah, but
Okay.
like that's true, and that is yeah.
And part of that is establishing players.
It
Yeah.
is part of that.
And it's all about who you pick.
Yes. Now we're going to continue on okay. What do you do when it comes down to setting and material? Because most of the time I homebrew a lot of my settings and a lot of my material.
I homebrew all my stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you gotta look at that part because there's advantage between homebrewing and disadvantage with homebrewing. There's also advantage with established settings and disadvantages to them. And it's a matter of what you're willing to do because with established settings, you don't have to worry about writing a lot of content. You just worry about a plot. But when it comes down to homebrew, you have a little bit more flex and control because there are setting lawyers. Because you will be driven crazy by those people who actually know what you're saying. I'm going to play in Eberron. I'm going to play in Fading Suns. I'm going to play in whatever.
Faerun.
Faerun.
Yeah.
Okay. You do run across some situations like that. And that's the major advantages and disadvantages of that. But the problem that I have to say, because I didn't touch on it with homebrewing a system or setting, it's consistency. And also it takes a lot more time.
Yeah, even though on that note of time, with using an established setting, you have to learn that setting.
See, I was-
so it's gonna take time to learn.
That's what I wanted to say was that like if you don't know the lore, you will be as a DM, you can get destroyed by a player who's like, no, you can't have that guy in a red robe. The priests of so and so
Yeah.
have to wear blue robes,
Whatever.
so that's wrong.
As
Yeah.
a former game master, I don't currently run a game, but I feel it's like a consensus among DMs to homebrew. It's just a consensus. I don't know many DMs that go off of settings that are straight out of something that isn't a module.
Yeah.
This can also be affected by the experience of players within your campaign setting. I mean, these could be players that also are prior DMs and such.
Yeah,
And they can also, if you're homebrewing, they can also go through, they can make maps with the DM, and they can kind of create and co-design with the DM.
So
Yeah.
you're talking about collaborative world building.
Yes.
not only that, but even if they aren't an experienced player, when you homebrew, it allows the players to have creative input. Like, let's say they invent something, or they have some sort of new...
Creative buy-in.
Yeah.
Endless stick of butter.
Endless stick of butter.
Yep, that was
Throw in a
my-
volcano, what happens? It's a question. You got to answer it now. So what does the party do? Take an endless stick of butter up a goddamn mountain.
Yes,
I mean-
and for a quick off the rails thing, the endless butter stick is something I created as a joke because in a Pathfinder game, everyone wanted magical loot, so I gave them the indestructible baguette and the endless butter stick.
Because we kept killing these weird crab people. And then
Yes.
roasting and eating them.
Yes, and the whole point of the endless
not
butter stick is
cannibalism.
to be useless. And Frodo takes up the endless butter stick and throws it in the volcano. See what happens.
Could it froth or will it just stay there? Who
I'm
knows?
pretty sure it'll froth because it replenishes itself.
Froth endlessly and destroy everybody with hot molten
Butter.
froth.
The only thing left is to throw cobs of corn into it.
Eh.
Oh,
I mean,
joy.
also, when players have more input, like was mentioned with the mapping and such, it actually draws more interest, I think.
Yeah, it does. Because then those people have a reason and understanding of that world alone. Because they say, well, I created this race, or these clan of people, this city, this town, this country, this continent, and it helps people get into there. And
it establishes them. It makes them feel like they have impact.
yes.
Something you won't get from like a lot of games, like video games. You don't feel like you have a lot of impact because you're not making it part of the game.
I will say though, for when you do make like a if you say, "Hey, players of mine in my group, will you draw up maps?" I will say, as a contingency plan to all you budding DMs out there, don't if you do give homework to your players, make sure you also do homework just in case they don't do the homework, because lots of times players might not level up their character, or
They
they
might forget.
or if you ask them to make a map, they might, "Oh, I didn't make the map." Well, I did, just in case. So do that.
Yeah.
Do all the work you can. Just
I mean, another thing is, like, since we're talking about the starting up of campaigns and such, not just the mapping out of settings, campaign settings, but also, as a DM, when you have experienced players, you can also say, well, maybe this session or maybe this campaign, what I'll do is like we'll draw like out of a hat a particular class type, and when you pick that class type, whatever you get, you have to physically from scratch make that class, make a class of that archetype.
So randomization.
So like healer, tank, DPS, pick out of the hat.
But the healer, like you say, for example, you get the healer, you don't go flip into the book and say, okay, well, I'm going to be a cleric.
Yeah, no, you gotta
You got to make it.
you gotta drop those, 1 to whatever level.
It could be really interesting, what kind of, things evolve out of it.
Yeah, and all this is part of homebrewing, and whether it's better than the modular stuff. And honestly, there are some really good modules out there. I'm not going to deny that. Very good settings. Again, going back to D&D, there's the Eberron setting. There's your
Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms. Neverwinter is a big
yeah.
setting in 4Ed. Right now, I think the 4Ed game that I'm in, that I mentioned before, is actually a Neverwinter setting, and it's actually really established and it's really fleshed out.
Well, when you're talking about established settings, here's another thing for those, and a tip actually for those who are wanting to do an established setting. If you're with a group of people who don't know much, I think the best way to establish it is by giving little tidbits at a time. Start in a pinpoint area, and as people progress, expose a
learn.
little bit more
Yeah.
as they go. Say, this is the town of so-and-so, and everyone's from this town of so-and-so. And as you're going along this road, or this countryside, or desert, or environment, expose little by little, and more
Basically,
more.
giving them a tour of the world.
Point out the
It's
landscape.
Yeah, it's pretty
Fog
much...
of war almost.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
a fog of war, and you're starting from a microscopic level to down to a telescope, because then you're looking at so much more, and the world becomes expansive, and then they learn. So if you're going to use that, go with that kind of way. Don't sit there and throw them a pile of books and say, start reading, because if you don't know it, you're not going to play, and that's kind of a prick thing to do.
That's the DM's job, and I
Yeah.
will never impose a DM responsibility on a player.
Exactly.
Yeah. And even sometimes when you're running a game, you hold your hand up and say, hold on, what do I don't know about this. And the game master says, oh, well, this, and that. This is how these things work. And since you're from the area, you would understand that, so I will give you the benefit of the doubt.
That's something I want to mention. Kind of a little bit of backstory with myself is the first campaign group I've ever been with. I actually quit. I dropped out of it. And the reason I did was because there was an individual who was joining the group, brand new to a D&D at the time, and we had another individual playing that basically told this person, well, it's a lot of reading, so if you don't like reading, then you just need to leave.
That's
Yeah. Wow.
That's a big no-no. And that's why I think the whole pinpoint to the fog of war technique, we'll call it now, so people understand it better. You're starting in the mists, and as you go on, you understand the land better. Okay?
Yeah, because not every character, because it also helps to break that bridge between player knowledge and DM and GM knowledge or out of game knowledge.
Yeah, I'm even doing that in my Eclipse Phase game, running with you guys.
Yep, we're just guys. We don't really know much, and the beauty about Eclipse Phase actually is because it's a future setting. We can't know more than the book the DM is telling us.
I actually have a good example of that about player and DM knowledge or GM knowledge for the more general purpose. Maybe don't allow players to have certain source books out. Because we had a player
Right.
on our Friday game who, during an encounter, tried to look up the monster we were fighting.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
a
was
no-no.
that is a no-no. Like you are about to
Part of etiquette.
Yeah, you are about to use out-of-game knowledge on this creature. If you look at it, sir, you can't. You gotta take it at face value, and then take the creature out as you will as just, oh wow, it's the first time I met that creature. What does it do? From experience. I mean, yeah.
Well, of course, you're going to have also more experienced players who have run into certain creatures numerous times,
Yeah,
and they're going to be like, yeah, well...
Oh, that thing, I know how to
But-
kill it. You shoot in the third eye and it explodes.
It's
Yeah.
also up to that player to play their character in the sense that the character hasn't ran into that
Yeah,
creature
so
before.
it also behooves the experienced player to separate that knowledge.
Yeah.
But again, we're getting kind of sidetracked with...
We are. But I would say, though, for reference, when you're starting a campaign, the source books really tell your players what source books are allowed and what are the ground
Yeah,
rules.
definitely tell them what the restrictions are.
Yeah. That's a huge thing. As the DM, you need
Lay
to
down
say,
the law.
it's Dr. Monroe. The law.
The law.
Yes,
Because, you fight the law and the law wins.
it does. Rules wearing. Anyways,
Hey, just because I'm better at it than you.
oh. But settings, now, when you're starting a campaign, it's not just... Now, we have been parading D&D a whole lot.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's the go-to.
Well, that's the main example we're
Yeah.
going with, so because it's the most commonly played game.
It is, but we
But
have to remember there's like
but-
flip phase.
There's Eclipse Phase. There's
Star Wars.
Star Wars. There's
People forget there's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it upsets me.
okay. But we're just saying there's a lot of settings out there because even people create settings and systems, and this is just information to help. It's not exactly perfect because there's different techniques that people approach in different ways. These are ways that we feel is best.
You want a free flow? You really want a setting where you're not really sure of the setting until you start playing the game? Play GURPS or try Riffs. That's a whole new can of wax.
Yeah.
Ball of worms, can of wax, whatever.
Even if it was for a short period of time. I think one of
Idiom.
the better games I actually got a chance to play was actually the Star Trek roleplay.
From TSR.
I've never had a
Yeah,
chance to try that.
I've never played it, but I've heard a lot about it, and it seems like a lot of fun because even then, that one is very unique when it comes down to building a party because everything is randomly rolled, even your backstory.
The maneuvering, the starship fights are actually really, really good.
Oh, because they're all capital class. Because there isn't really fighters in Star Trek. But,
No,
I mean, you have away missions and such.
yeah,
but
it's
but that's a kind of game that has a way to build its party together and for people to fall under it easily. And not to mention that setting has TV shows about it.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
movies.
really good source material.
a lot of established lore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you're making a setting or you're picking a homebrew, you need to have a good setting. Like you can take even if it's homebrew or you have a source material. If it has good source material or some sort of mythology behind it, that's a really good draw point. It just makes a more phenomenal
Actually,
game.
that brings up something really important that I don't think we've covered. That's not just setting, but the other S word, system. What system are you going to use for your campaign? That's really
Yes.
important.
That is very important too because again, you say a game like GURPS.
Yeah, not everyone knows that GURPS.
GURPS is a very I don't know what the acronym stands for.
General. Oh God, no. Generalized Universal Roleplay System.
I thought it was generic.
Yes, generic universal roleplay system. I'm sorry,
And-
I'm a
and
terrible
there's
lawyer.
There's even BRP. We're talking about system with settings. I mean, not settings.
Systems.
That have no settings tied to them. Because there's BRP, which is a percentile game. There is GURPS, for
which
example.
is 3d6.
Savage Worlds is another one, which is a weird D20 style game, which doesn't make any sense. I couldn't even call it D20; just use some of its dice.
And it's important because if you are a new DM and you're listening, the system you choose, I mean, don't you could swing for the fences and go for something super complex, but then that means you will probably need veteran players. Don't choose an overcomplicated system you can't yourself enforce.
Or at least take some time with everybody to kind of get an understanding of it. Because some systems are very easy to learn, some of them are not so easy to learn because of the rules. Certain rules also come into effect that you sometimes have to pick and choose or make a decision on. So when you come up with a system or rule set, try to stick to them as best as you can when you start running a game.
Yeah, when it comes to making a new system for rolling or any stat determining or skill checking system, that is the hardest aspect of any game if you're trying to just homebrew it completely. And honestly, if you're a novice GM or DM or whatever you want to, whatever system you're trying to do, I would avoid it unless you're a very experienced DM. Like I've known there are very few people who can actually build a new dice system that's unique and original.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of a few other things that could be used for starting a campaigns that I usually think about. And mainly it's finding a plot, because we talked about everything when it comes down to the whole wide scope, but now we're going to try to narrow it down to plot. How do you construct a plot? Because it doesn't matter about system or setting. If the plot doesn't work, it doesn't work.
You need a plot device.
Yes, you need a plot device, and that's the thing you got to work at. Because if you sit there and you focus your plot on a single thing, it can fall apart quite quickly. You can have something that seems very big and vague, but then it gets really hard to focus. So
But if we have 3 movies, we can use the one plot device to throw it into the other plot device.
yes,
Maybe we need a plot mechanism. Oh, like a lever.
Oh.
Like a plot lever.
Now, Daryl, you're actually a really good example of
holders?
this particular topic in terms of systems. I myself also included, because I myself recently started role-play games with Daryl, and Daryl has been doing D20s quite a bit.
I've done lots of D20s,
Lots
but,
of D20s.
but also you haven't been around for my weird phases, because I've done a lot of different games, and all of them on my shelves I played a majority of them.
What I'm saying is that you've gone with a particular system enough that you wanted to switch completely, and it's dictating which particular system you're not going to be playing, because you've already done it enough times. Whereas in myself, when I came in, I basically had been starved of that system for X amount of years, was looking forward to running into it, but at the same time, then you switch over.
All right,
But that's because,
we're getting off topic again. We are ADD today, and I have
well, it's
no clue.
systems. It's the same topic.
Yeah, but I started going to plot.
No, he
Plots.
wanted to like plot devices. Like,
All right, so
start in the tavern.
let's
Like,
start in the tavern. You're all mercenaries. That can work.
That's
but,
simple.
But you can look at it in different ways, because you're telling a story. If you're doing a dungeon crawl, you're doing a dungeon crawl. If you're doing find MacGuffin, you find MacGuffin. If you're going to say kill the bad and save the princess and destroy the dragon, you go ahead and do that. You want to sit there and find the cure for the disease on your starship. Well, you're in looking all over the place and trying to find the source of it.
Yeah, you when it comes down to plots and plot mechanisms and plot devices and plot levers and plot holders, you need something that is flexible. You need as a DM need to be flexible.
Well, something adaptable is what you want to say.
Let's assume we start a game in a tavern or a bar or X place with X amount of booze.
the space bar.
Space bar. So we're starting a space bar, and you are intending that, there's some wanted posters. They'll look at those. Or you hear something from somebody who's over talking on the table next to you. So you assume that that's what they're going to do. But then the party is like, let's go kill the mayor. And then they go do that. And it's like, no, you can't kill the mayor. And you try, then you start doing things because you had it so focused. You start doing things like, I'm going to throw the guards at them. I'm going to throw it. It's like they can't kill the guards. You start getting like defensive of your world. And that is bad.
Yeah.
You need to be flexible. If they want to kill the mayor, you need to make it legitimate. Like
It's
the
an attainable goal. Make it an
attainable goal. Yeah. And if they really think it out, if you really didn't want them to do it, you should really focus on being prepared to if they screw this up and they don't do it exactly as they need to, they're probably going to die. And you don't hold any punches, because at the point they didn't hold any punches towards your game, you're not holding any punches towards them. But that's not to say get aggressive towards your players. You're not challenging the players.
Actually, I was going to say, what it would be important is that, when you're world building for your plot, I actually have a good example where I build huge world.
And then we ended up playing Lumberjack.
Yeah, I build a huge world. I've had a player at one point playing a wizard who I'm like, all right, you're all in this town. He's like, I teleport everybody across the world. Okay, I have contingency plans for contingency plans for contingency plans. Like, yeah, you teleport them over there. Well, I already had that figured out. I have a story there too.
You can't trick me, kid.
Yeah,
I've been at this too long.
That's what you have to do as a DM.
You're in a desert now with no water.
Okay, so closing thoughts and closing topics and ideas. Mike?
With the with what was just mentioned, having you have to go with multiple plans if you're a DM. You have to. You can't just go with a set. This is going to happen, because players are going to do what players do, which is pretty much they're going to change your story.
Absolutely. And we've went over plots, we've went over settings, we've went over systems, we've went over the benefits of homebrewing it versus picking up a module. But it all comes down to, what do your players want to play? Because as a DM, you're nothing without your players. You got to have players. So what your players want to play, what they're used to, their experience level, things of that nature.
So you say interest to players was something that they can enjoy.
Absolutely. And if people want, let's all do something new, then do it. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
It's kind of like when we all looked at Shadows of Starin, we all wanted to run and play that game.
I want to see what this at least comes out to.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeremiah.
What I would adequate this to is that, first off, a lot of times players they'll be rude to you. They will try to fudge your game because it's funny. I mean, like, oh yeah, you don't have a plan for that. So remember the most important key feature of any RPG, as a DM and as a player, to respect this, follow the golden rule.
Game has final say.
Yeah, always follow the golden rule and take that to heart, because that's the most. And when it comes to even like rules blurring, that's the most important rule.
Because you don't want the DM to try and kill you.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, and I'm your host, Daryl.
I'm your other host, Jeremiah.
Super awesome special guest, Michael.
And I'm even more special, awesome, super to the maximum, John. And remember to send us an email at justrolledalready@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, and comment below.
Thank you.